Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Hey, good morning miners. Welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. Well, here we have it, Thursday morning, bright and early. I feel like I'm seeing Anthony more than my wife and kids right now because there's so much going on in the miner space. We've been waiting for this action. The FOMO is starting to kick in. We have ETF inflows day after day, you guys. Plus, we got big news out this morning from Hut 8 in relation to HPC AI, which we're going to discuss in today's video. A nice little update on the SealMiner technology roadmap from Bitdeer and some major upgrades from analysts in the space and institutional interest coming into the sector. So a lot to talk about in this morning's video. Before we do though, you know the drill. Smash the like button, guys. Huge help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comments section below what you thought of our interview with Ben from Bitfarms last night, how you're feeling about the mining space overall, and be sure to get your entries in for Miner Madness, which is starting next week. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, guys, so that's right. Another video coming at you bright and early this morning. Anthony, so much going on in the space. I made a joke in the intro that you and I are seeing each other more than our family right now, but it's honestly probably true with the amount of news, activity, and updates coming out. So we've got a long list to get through this morning. First and foremost, though, Anthony, very solid interview with Ben from Bitfarms last night. I always enjoy talking to him. A wealth of information. Despite his age, he's one of the most seasoned, experienced OGs in the space. A very clear vision for Bitfarms laid out and a ton of interest. That video already over 2,000 views. Just in terms of reflecting on that conversation, Anthony, what really stuck out or stuck with you from our discussion with Ben last night?
Yeah, no, but Ben's great, and one of the brightest guys in the room whenever you hear him talk. So. But it was great to hear all parts. I mean, talking about the agreement with Riot, that's obviously took some work to do, and it'd be interesting. I mean, Ben's been CEO for just a few months, and the turnaround in what they've done. There's independent directors on the board. There's another one coming on the board there, so they've actually met a lot of the Riot requirements that Riot were highlighting as some of the things that, from a senior level in Bitfarms, they weren't happy with where they were performing. Nothing about the management and the operational teams like that. This was all about sort of like board level. Because they've been in discussions for over a year, but it was great to get his position on that there, and things that as sort of like smoothed out now till 2026. It doesn't prevent Riot from coming back with another bid if they want to come back with another bid in a more sort of like measured way rather than cloak and dagger. And it'd be interesting to get Jason's take when we get him on the podcast next week. But there was so much to cover last night. We covered the Stronghold acquisition. We covered all the growth strategy, and that's an area that sort of the one sort of thing that they've not achieved this year was getting to that 12 by the middle of the year. That was sort of like the only point. If you have a little mark in the book where they were close to it. I mean, they were over 11 exahash, so it wasn't far away. But we're now in September, so I'm hoping that we're going to get some good news when the update comes out next week. It'll be the first update from all the miners as it normally is. So hopefully we got through that 12 barrier, and that gives us some sort of expectation we can get to 21 by the end of the year. I also liked his take on the HPC. It doesn't look like they're going full-blown HPC like, the likes of, say, Core Scientific, but they're doing things in a more measured way. They'll look to do something, maybe a pilot first, just to see how that works out. And bear in mind, people, we're all jumping up thinking everyone should go into HPC, but there is a cost to doing that, and it's a significant cost. It's not like buying a few ASICs. You might buy 1,000 GPUs, but the cost of those GPUs are significantly more, probably 10 times, 15 times more than buying the mining machine. So, and that's just the GPUs. then you've got to have a facility that's capable of hosting those, and they don't come cheap either. I think, we've had people on the podcast before. It's you're talking in terms of 10 or 15 times the cost of building a like for like facility. Core Scientific are doing something totally different. They're doing something not at sort of like a tier 3 level, but something that's that's in agreement with CoreWeave, and it meets their requirements. But it doesn't mean that they're spending tens of billions of dollars to deliver it.
Sure.
They've got a 500 million in advance, and they'll also put their own money towards that. I mean, it's just an advance. I mean, effectively, they're having to pay it all back, so it's not like it's free money, but it gives them cash flow to get the bulk of the work done before they start doing that. Now, none of the other miners have got a deal like that, so they're all having to think about, HPC, how much it's going to cost to deliver even a small model, and that can be tens of millions just to deliver a few megawatts. So I was really pleased that he's not thinking going to the moon. He's thinking about how they can join that sort of that business revenue line, but doing it in a more measured way. So that was good to hear as well. And it's great, when you've got someone of Ben's technical ability, technical knowledge in the space, how he can sort of pretty much ask him anything, because he's got the ability to come back with the right answer, and all his questions, all the questions we asked him last night came back with a measured response. So really pleased the video's doing well. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you start looking at. We did a survey recently. I've done surveys over the last 3 or 4 years in terms of who people are following in the mining space. And the only miner that has appeared in the top 3 every year has been Bitfarms. So in 2021, 2022, 2023, and we've just had, few hundred responses now for the entry to the competition. And guess who's in the top 3 of the chosen miners for every, for every top.
And Anthony,
So
on the competition note, you mentioned ASICs and Ben's knowledge of the hardware. He actually offered up 10 of the old ASICs from Stronghold's facility as part of the competition. So we're starting to receive prizing now from these miners, and we're thinking it'll be really interesting. Whoever picks the winning combination, the top 3 miners, will try and get you swag from those 3. Hopefully those are your favorite or your top positions. But the competition, Anthony, great segue, really growing, over 200 applicants now, a couple days left to enter. So make sure you guys get your comments in the section below. Top 3 miners, percentage gain in order, first, second, third, October 1st to December 31st, along with Bitcoin price on December 31st. Now, speaking of Bitcoin price, Anthony, that's the next topic of discussion here. Finally breaking through 65,000. So some aggressive moves from Bitcoin this morning. We brought along our good chart here from HODL 15 showing inflows again in excess of $100 million yesterday. So Anthony, we talk about the FOMO. We talk about the herd mentality or game theory here with Bitcoin, being the more people that buy in, the higher the price goes, meaning the more people want to buy in, and so on and so forth. It appears that is really starting to happen now. Consistent inflows, consistent pressure. When I was pulling this chart, Anthony, I could hardly even get a screenshot because the dollars just kept moving up and up and up. Phenomenal to see, and really breathing some life into the miner sector.
yeah, I mean that's that's the last 13 days we've had 11 green days, so that tells you that we've had a little bit of a turnaround from the end of August, early September. We went through that run of about 8 or 9 days where there was constant outflows, but it just shows you sentiment, how things can change very quickly. And you look back over the last 3 months of the price of Bitcoin, it's been in that range from, say, 53,000 up as high as 73,000. So it's been in that range, and it's held that range. This last few weeks has been good because we've seen the price slowly pull itself away. I think it got down to 54,000 a couple of weeks ago, and it's pulled itself away from there. Like you say today, going through the 65,000 marker there, but it needs to hold at that level there before it can move further. So it's hovering around the 65, just under. I think the last time I looked, just before the podcast, and but yeah, it's all positive news there, and the mining companies will react accordingly to the Bitcoin price at the moment. So. And the volatility is there. You can see the volatility every day when market opens, pre-market, market opens, then during the market period there, as the price of Bitcoin fluctuates that 1 or 2%, sometimes 3% a day. Mining stocks will do, similar, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the miners. They have changed slightly since we got this screenshot, Anthony. Interestingly enough, Core Scientific, the only one in the red today. So perhaps people looking at Core now as an HPC play, not as intertwined with Bitcoin. However, they are still a top Bitcoin producer. So interesting to see that. We've also got some nice moves out of Bit Digital today and some of the smaller miners, along with Marathon, Anthony, actually up 10%. So we're going to talk about some analyst upgrades in a second here. But you talk about Bitfarms taking that measured approach into HPC. We actually got a big announcement from Hut 8 Corp this morning as well. I'll throw up your tweet here, Anthony. You were one of the first to report on this. Then we can get into the actual press release. But this was a major step in the right direction. And Sue Ennis actually chiming in saying this would represent $20 million annual recurring revenue to the business. So this is a big step in the right direction. Another major move from Asher and team.
Yeah, I mean, Hut 8, we've been waiting for these announcements now, and he said to us, Asher said, judge me on Q3, and so we're in Q3 now. And today the company announced the launch of its GPU as a service vertical, and it's already, generating revenue with the first AI cloud developer fully online. So this data center in Chicago, includes the HPE Cray supercomputers, and they've got 1,000 of the NVIDIA H100 GPUs. So again, we're seeing, these H100s still being purchased today. We talked, in the previous podcast about the H200s and other GPUs that are coming to the market with significant more power capacity. But people are still going out there on the H100s, and so that's interesting to see as well. The actual deal itself has been developed in partnership with HPE and AdviseX, and it's operating under one of the subsidiaries of Hut, High-Rise AI. The agreement's for 5 years, and the AI developer includes fixed infrastructure payments and revenue sharing. So it's another way of Hut diversifying its revenue streams and creating some of that long-term growth. So and you're right, Sue did come back with a request from a couple. I think Sebastian actually put a request in to say, do we have any revenues associated with this? And Sue said at the moment it's 20 million of annualized revenues for this particular project. So yes, it's going through a revenue profit share, but it's good to see another business stream coming through for Hut, and hopefully there's more of these. We're still waiting in anticipation for news on the sort of the mining side, what they're going to deliver in terms of self-mining, replace current miners there, and also the fact they've got a great hosting and management service business. So lots more information hopefully coming out from Hut in the near future.
Yeah, really nice update this morning. And like I say, a step in the right direction. 20 million a year is nothing to shake your head at, and really just a tipping toe into the waters of AI HPC. Now, the Bitcoin miners really starting to move here now, Anthony. You guys, if you're making some money in the market today, make sure you smash the like button. I wanted to give a shout out to Soluna as well, up near 10% now, Anthony, after that big project announcement, 187 megawatts. So hopeful to get John back on the program soon to talk about them, but definitely take a look at Soluna, you guys, if you're not familiar with that company. Big growth ahead of them.
I want to add to that, Bryce. It's interesting. There's a few people put Soluna in their 3 miners that they expect to do well in the next 3 months as well. So We've covered them, quite a lot recently. We've had John on the podcast 4 or 5 times this year already. Always great to have him on the podcast. He's another guy that's very knowledgeable in the space, got a tech background, going back over 20 years, and he can be judged on what he's done the first 12 months quite clearly in the terms of the projects that they're going through now and they're releasing. And there's a lot of interest in Soluna. They've got this pipeline of energy that they're able to tap into, and they're putting together these smaller type projects. I mean, bear in mind that the company's market cap, even today with the increase there is just a little over 30 million. And so they're putting together projects, $35-50 million, raising capital with a partner, delivering the project, having a profit share there. But they've got 4 or 5 of these on the go at the moment. Plus, they have I would say it's a small self-mining business there, about 0.7, 0.8 exahash, twice as much hash rate looking at the hosting business they've got. And they've already got a couple of models or a model certainly up and running in terms of HPC. So like Ben said yesterday, good for a company to get a small model. This is exactly what Soluna have done. And they're looking to do more of these. So in some of the projects that are upcoming, parts of those projects are delivering HPC as well as mining on the same site. So by doing things in a smaller managed way, they have the ability to then ramp up, because if it works and they know how to deliver it and they can learn lessons to improve it going forward, that gives them a head start. And so, yeah, I like what I see with Soluna. It's going to be interesting over the next 3 months if their stock price can grow. And believe you me, we've seen Soluna's share price grow. I mean, it wasn't, 3 months ago, it was over $8. Today, it's hovering just over $3. So it has pulled back a bit, but that means there's potential to get back to that all-time high like there is for every other miner. But the percentage gain to get to all-time high for Soluna will be quite good compared to the others.
And maybe that's why people are picking it. We'll throw up a quick Easter egg here. This is the current distribution of picks for the Miner Madness competition. Keep in mind, this could change as we get more entries. But for those of you listening and watching along here, here's a quick look. Now, you mentioned trial HPC or small 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt clusters to really experience, to learn, to grow. That's exactly what Bitdeer's done in Singapore as well, Anthony. Unfortunately, we missed the Grand Prix. We were trying to get the invite for the F1. We didn't make it this year. But hopefully Jeff LaBerge and team, now that they've got SealMiner number 2 out the door, can make some time for F1 next year. So 13.5 joules per terahash, Anthony. They've now achieved that milestone, albeit it is in super or ultra low power saving mode, so underclocking essentially. Now, you and I were already extremely impressed with the first iteration of the SealMiner, not only the name, but the performance as well, 18.1 joules. Now they've come out, this is industry leading. I don't think really any other miners are much below 13 joules at this point in time. Phenomenal progress they've made on this technology roadmap, Anthony, and another big announcement here from Bitdeer.
Yeah, no, a big announcement, and not too much of a surprise when you think about the amount of staff in terms of R&D staff that Bitdeer have. I mean, Bitdeer have more R&D staff than most of these mining companies have staff. So they have just over 50 employees just in R&D department. And think about where Bitdeer came from. Bitdeer was formed from Bitmain, so a lot of the staff, a lot of the senior team were previously Bitmain, and Bitmain are the largest supplier by an absolute mile. So they control probably 80%, maybe even higher than that, of all the market in terms of delivering ASIC miners. So Bitdeer are, doing things initially for themselves, but they are looking, if we see the Bitcoin price rally, and when it rallied last time, the valuation of mining rigs also increased. So these mining machines do have a correlation with Bitcoin price previously. So if that's like to happen again, then Bitdeer have made it quite clear that as an entrant to the market, they'd be quite happy to sell machines to other miners and get a really good revenue stream from that there. Now, they're talking about going into mass production for the CO2 miner, so this miner here, which, we're talking about on a setting, it will get 13.5 joules a terahash, but I'm assuming at normal power rates, efficiency is probably a little bit higher than that. But this sort of ties in with a lot of conversations we've been having. So remember we spoke to Adam Sullivan, and they were underclocking the S19s
Hmm.
and getting a really good efficiency from those. We've seen Hive Digital do exactly the same, getting when I say two or three, probably about 8 to 10% more efficiency from mining machines by underclocking the mining machine. So if you look at Hive's update from last month, instead of being at 24.5, they were getting an efficiency of about 23 by not overclocking the machines, clicking them under the normal setting. And so this again is where it gets, miners have to sort of like determine what settings are going to do these. And there's so many settings, but each setting will give them a different output, and that will be a different cost of power to mine. And so they'll have technical people there who understand this. It's probably like like the Formula One Grand Prix itself, like when they're looking
Yeah.
at these mining machines and determining how they can get through the race. With making sure that all the data that's coming out is giving them the right information. And I'm assuming that these people at each of the mining companies are doing exactly the same as you would do it in a Formula One race. There, you get the most out of the machines there.
What a great analogy. I can't believe the complexity when you and I were in Denton. Remember those walls of ASICs that as high as we could see? Anthony and I have trouble getting both our monitors to work at the same time and the audio going. So it's truly impressive, and the amount of software and the software stacks incorporated at these facilities is phenomenal. Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Now, another update, Anthony, from your side of the pond, a major investment from Blackstone actually investing in the data center business. So we've seen tremendous ETF inflows. We've seen a lot of intention from hyperscalers. Obviously, Microsoft, we covered that deal, getting the 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor coming back online. Yet another example of major money flowing into the data center world. Hey, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a great investment for the UK and for the Northumberland area where the investment is going to be made. It's going to provide, upwards of 1,200 construction jobs. So, and the building work is expected to begin early next year. And basically, Blackstone, as well as investing 10 billion in the AI data center, they're also going to invest 110 million pounds on improving transport infrastructure in the area. And the chief or CEO of Blackstone has basically said, the UK, is a top investment market, and also the fact that a lot of talent and innovation in the UK. I mean, I remember Mike Alpha putting a tweet out about what the UK's ever done, and I sort of in sort of like a couple of minutes responded quite quickly to say, well, we did invent the internet. We did invent
Titanic?
HTML, DNA. There was a whole host of things like, and he came back and went, yeah, fair play. But we do have, in fact, actually, the guy who led the way in terms of the World Wide Web, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, he's actually a lecturer in the city that I reside in at the moment, Southampton. So, there's a connection there. But this is great for the UK. I mean, the one thing that sort of baffles me is that obviously electricity costs here are not as low as they are in the US. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great for more jobs. It's going to be, one of Europe's largest, hyperscale data center, and it will end up supporting about 4,000 jobs. So that's great to hear from Blackstone. It looks like, they're committed to Britain. And only about, I think, a week or 2 weeks ago, CoreWeave also suggested that they're going to look to invest about £1 billion in the UK again, because there's the talent and the opportunities here. So might only be, in terms of physical size, a small country. I mean, I can drive the length of the UK in probably in probably less time than you can drive in your particular state. England's only about 400 miles in length. So, but we do sort of punch above our weight, and 60 million people living here, a lot of great technological expertise in the UK. So it's good to see that this is a great investment coming here, and UK can play a part in this revolution.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Anthony, you mentioned electricity prices in the UK. What we've heard from a number of CEOs is, despite some of the economics in certain areas, there's actually a lot of government demand for data centers with very sensitive information. So imagine health records or elections or anything like that. They don't want that stuff offshore. They would like to have the data within their own territory. So we are going to start to see, I think, data
Yeah,
centers pop up.
and also, I don't know any of the deals of this particular deal, in terms of, sometimes when you come, I know we saw it with the big car manufacturers. So we had Nissan come to the UK. We've had the big steel manufacturers come to the UK and take over sites here. Even our energy companies some of them have been taken over by French companies. But the government do offer some incentivize, these type of players to come to the UK as well. So there'll be great, opportunities on both sides. So it'd be great for the local people, where there's a lot more jobs available. I mean, we're talking 1,200 construction jobs, but 4,000, data center positions once the construction has been completed. So, and just think of the effects of that data center. You got those staff working there, even the construction people who work there. The money that goes back into the local economy and basically recycles through that local economy is going to be awesome for the northeast of England, which has typically been one of the regions where there's been higher unemployment than maybe, say, in the south of England,
Sure.
closer to the big city of London.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, a great investment, great story. Now, another excellent story for the sector here. Macquarie setting new price targets for a number of the big miners. Now, in the press release, they cite exposure to HPC and AI as one of the key drivers for their outperform ratings. However, they did give Marathon and Riot an upgrade as well, despite their peer play intentions at this point in time, Anthony. So I'll let you walk through the article. Looks like Marathon $22 price target, Riot 15, Core Scientific 16, CleanSpark 20, and CIFR Mining, which we've seen some big moves out of this week, $6 price target, which are not too far off already.
Yeah, and we know that Macquarie were they look after or analysts for IREN. So they're now focusing on a number of other companies, and most of these companies are focusing on are looking to expand their exposure into HPC. And we've talked about the fact that the HPC conversation is very relevant at the moment. We've got that one big deal. We've got a few of the miners that are delivering some sort of an on-demand HPC service, AI service, where customers can buy power on demand, and that's another way of growing the business that way. But with every analyst company, you're going to get a set of targets, but it's good to see that most of these targets are looking at effectively companies that will probably double their share price in the short near future. So Marathon has been given a stock target of 22, but I know there's other analysts have given a stock target of 30, which is probably double where it is, or just under double where it is today. We know that Riot's share price and Mara's share price, if you think about since that sort of the announcement from Core Scientific, we brought this up on a previous podcast, and we looked at the graph in terms of those mining companies that had had their share price improve since that announcement from Core Scientific, and some of the miners that have said at the time categorically they weren't going into the HPC. So Marathon and Riot were two of those. CleanSpark were another one, and actually at the time then Bitfarms. But now we've seen Marathon bring on some new directors with HPC backgrounds. We've seen Ben on the podcast yesterday talk about in a measured way they're going to start looking at HPC, maybe do a project, a smaller project, or a model to set up to make sure that they can deliver that and then grow from learning from that experience there. Riot at the moment, and we'll get more information from Jason next week when he comes on the channel. Riot has said no at the moment, quite categorically. We were there with the analysts down at the Corsicana site, and the first question to Jason that day, I remember it quite clearly, was, are you going to be utilising any of your spare power capacity to deliver HPC? And he said a very firm no at the time.
No.
Now, we said to Ben last night, when you're looking at share prices, and the likes of TeraWulf and Core Scientific share price has risen 150% since that date, the 3rd of June, and the likes of Marathon and Riot shares have dropped something like 30 to 40% respectively. Bitfarms was down 8% from that day as we were speaking to Ben last night, and the price of Bitcoin was down about 7%. So Bitfarms was probably keeping in line with the Bitcoin price, but Mara and Riot have dropped significantly lower than the Bitcoin price as in that period. CleanSpark as well, were again at the time we're about over 20% down in terms of their share price, and they've not only they said they're not going into HPC, but they've been quite vocal in terms of maybe applying gentle criticism to those miners that are, using it or highlighting it in terms of we're going to get, the next HPC deal. And CleanSpark are probably effectively saying, how many deals are realistically out there. And so, there's an argument, for the pure play miners, challenging to be the best in the business. And actually, if you think about the two that have said up to now they're not going down the HPC route, they're both similar in terms of current hash rate size, current targets for this year and for next year. So those two are going to be sort of like fighting tooth and nail to be dominant in the space, to get their hash rate up quickly. We know that Riot have got all the sites to grow all their hash rate for 2024 and 2025, but we've seen CleanSpark buying and acquiring, smaller miners, a lot more sites in recent months there to make sure they get to deliver their target of 37, which is literally just 1 exahash more than Riot's targets for the end of the year. But great to see these prices increase there. There was quite a few. I think quite a few of the analysts have actually come out with CleanSpark and given them price target ranges between $20 and $30. So bear in mind the share price was $24 back in March. So we know it can get to that sort of high for the year, but it's currently trading around about, I think the last time I looked today was just over $10 a share. So it's got a long way just to get back to the year-to-date highs before we start looking at where the Bitcoin price could go in the next 3 months.
Yeah, and Matt Schultz actually expressing it. It looks like some frustration, saying, "Hey, we have all these top-performing metrics, but we aren't getting the appreciation from the market." They were really the market darling in the start of the year and kind of fell out of grace after that June 3rd HPC announcement from Core and CoreWeave.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of hash rate growth, you've got to take your hats off to the likes of CleanSpark and IREN in the last 18 months. Both of them have, go back 2 years ago, both of them had low single-digit hash rates, and now both today are over 20 exahash. And we talked at the start of this year, Bryce, I don't remember, about, what was the next target to get into that top tier. And at one point we were saying 10, and we started seeing some of these growth targets come out, and then it sort of jumped to, to 20 and then 30, and like, you've got 5 miners now who are sort of like operating over 20 exahash as we stand today, with Marathon over 30 exahash. And by the end of the year, you're going to have, at least 3 miners operating well over 30 exahash. So, the growth in hash rate, but the way that, that CleanSpark and IREN have achieved that, should get some clear recognition for that. And they were given recognition. They were given recognition all the way to 4 billion as the market capitalization, was in March. And, since then there's been a pullback on a lot of the stocks. Bear in mind, think about the growth in 2023 when Bitcoin hit that low in December 2022, and all the mining stocks were, I remember at CleanSpark and IREN at like $1 a share in early 2023. We had Core Scientific at 4 cents a share. Now that wasn't
Glory
many
days,
of
Anthony.
I've seen so many tweets that how many people had that 4 cents or 6 cents, were like those shares weren't easily to buy. You couldn't even buy the shares on the normal markets then. So I'm being intrigued. I'd like to see in the comments some people show their tradings for that period, because it's a bit like I was there when that happened. But we've seen some remarkable recovery last year. We saw some remarkable increased performance in the early part of this year. We've had a pullback, and now we're seeing Bitcoin start to move closer to the sort of like year all-time high, and the mining companies are starting to to correlate to that. But end of the day, there are so many variables. It's not just about the Bitcoin price or the hash rate. You've got to look at, how much of these companies are paying for energy. So we have some companies that we know are paying less than 3 cents a kilowatt hour. We know that other companies are paying above 5 cents, 6 cents a kilowatt hour. We have companies that have got aging fleets. We have some companies, and we have to look at IREN now, because they are dominating the efficiency, because they've effectively just replaced everything. They've got literally a brand new fleet operating at was it 18 or 17 joules a terahash, and to get to 15 by the end of the year. Well, to get to 15, you've got to have effectively the whole fleet of S21s, which are operating at 15 joules a terahash.
Or the SealMiner 2, Anthony, if you want to get down to 13.5, I guess, nowadays.
Yeah, 13.5 is that setting. So, it's great, maybe in shorter bursts to underclock at that period there, but, at the end of the day, if you can deliver more Bitcoin by having machines set at the right setting, and there's a reason. Not everyone won't be underclocking just to get it there, but there will be settings where machines do operate optimally. And that was just an indication from what they've done in testing. But you want to buy a machine and deliver Bitcoin. Riot also said that they're not going to overclock them, even though they've got immersion cooling at Corsicana. They're not going to overclock the machines. In fact, they'll look to underclock their machines there. So they're looking to sort of like have better performance in terms of energy. Rather than production. Now that, hopefully that works out, because obviously retail investors want to see how many Bitcoin you've produced and compare that with those at the front there, the likes of the Bitfarms and the Hives, in terms of how much Bitcoin they're producing with their fleets. And then you look at maybe Marathon and Riot and say, well, your performance isn't anywhere near. And what's the reason for that? And then you've got to wait for the results to come out to see is the correlation there. So, would we expect to see, when Riot bring out their quarterly results, because they've been doing more efficient mining, underclocking, not getting as big a production, that their margins are super good? Well, this is time will tell. So when we get the next set of results out for them, that'll be interesting. But we've got Jason on next week, so we can get a more up to date view from Jason. He's one thing about him on the podcast is he's pretty much transparent. We've pretty much eked out a lot of information that probably wasn't out there in the current marketplace to a certain extent, or if it was, people weren't able to find it. So he did answer the questions about the drop in performance at Rockdale, and we'll get an update to see how that's doing now. So this is 4 or 5 months since that original podcast. Let's see if those machines have been changed and they're getting to where they need to be, because I for one, want to see that hash rate, operational hash rate higher, more production in line with what the other miners are doing now. We're seeing that top 10 miners are generally interchangeable because they're literally delivering what they should be doing every month. But there's about 3 or 4 at the bottom of the table that are just not really getting the same levels of production, and we want to understand why.
Yeah, most definitely. And we heard from Ben last night. In terms of new mining rigs, this is a show me or a prove it situation. So Bitdeer has tested their machines at these specs, but rolling out tens of thousands of rigs is a whole different thing. Now, currently, Anthony, Bitcoin trading at 65,300. We'll leave you with a nice little AI generated Yoda here from Sebastian. My two favorite passions, Anthony, Bitcoin and Star Wars coming together. Yoda thinks Bitcoin's going up. Bitcoin appears to be going up, and the ETFs are attracting money left, right, and center. So a great day to be in the market. You guys smash the like button if you're still watching. If you're making some money today, feel free to subscribe and make sure to get your Miner Madness entries in the comment section below.
Yeah.
This is your last week to do so. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you here tomorrow.